All right, so I'm sharing my screen now, and this is our website. And I've got on the page right now with our Saccomath site. So when you join Saccomath or Science, you can access these sites. And you can browse them even before you've joined. You just won't be able to access the specific content. So here's all of the sites from Geometry Honors, Algebra 2 Honors. You'll see some AP and Science classes down here. So I'm going to do Algebra 2 Honors and Trig just as an example. And what you'll first see on one of these sites is schedule. So right now we're still in the summer mode. So these are going to be our first sessions for the school year. But once the school year begins, what you'll notice is that I will also put topics that will be covered each week. So you know exactly what standards lessons and practice tests that I'll be going over on any week. We'll email these out as well at the end of each previous week of what's happening for the next week. So you'll always see that. Um, what you'll see next is here, since we're in summer mode, there's some information about summer packets. That's just a special post. There's a way to sign up for text message reminders that helps a lot of students keep on top of their schedule in terms of when we have sessions. And then this is really the big one. This is going to be our current class materials. And this is a link that if you want to join a live class via Zoom, I'll always be broadcasting a live lecture class via Zoom. So you can join in that class if I'm giving a lecture. And then often practice test sessions, when it's time for me to answer questions during the practice test, I will log in. And if you have a question, you can send me a chat. The calendar down here as well will just have important dates on it, but really the summary up here is what most people use. Okay, so this is pretty self-explanatory. Let's take a look at current materials because this is where the most interesting part is going to be. This is just a reminder of our study process for each exam that's coming up at Creek. And these are the materials that you're going to have. So in the previous video, I talked about our basic process, and this will be a good visual aid. So the way this is organized for any class is I'll organize it by particular topic, and it will be clear on the previous page what topic that we'll be going over on a given week. So for the first topic of Algebra 2H Trig after the summer packet, and this will be to help students finish their summer packets and get ready for the summer packet quiz. But I'm going to actually demonstrate using the first topic of the year, which is a section of the first 8 worksheets in the workbook and then a quiz on those worksheets. And the first thing you see here is the standards lesson. Okay. So this is the standards lesson. And sometimes you'll see this, sometimes you won't. But in this case, there's also a note sheet, which is just like a quick reference sheet that goes along with the standards. So you can just think of that note sheet as a supplement to the standards. Sometimes you'll see one of those, sometimes you won't. It's like basic memorization that goes along with the standards, okay? And then there's my videos. This is a longer lesson. Usually takes me 2 sessions to get through the standards packet. So there's 2 videos that goes with it, okay? So this is the first step of our learning process. And I want to give a few more details on this. So when I go through the standards lesson, okay, um, the thing is that I do when I write these standards lessons is I go through all of these worksheets that you have to learn. There's 8 worksheets, usually covered over a period of like 8 class days. Maybe they jam a couple into a couple of days, but it's a good amount of material. And I have poured over these. I've worked with students over the last, 18 to 20 years working with students on this material. And I have a lot of experience knowing, okay, how do students learn this material? How do I best summarize this material? And I've organized it very carefully into a set of problems. And I start with the most basic problems, starting from the most basic principles, and I build upon those problems, and I add in more concepts, more principles, and I connect those to the earlier problems, and then stack more concepts and more principles and combine those with earlier ones and build further and further up. Okay. And what I call this method of teaching is building a narrative based on math problems. So I try to build a little bit of a story and tell you a story about how this set of math problems creates a kind of a system of mathematical thinking all centered around this topic. So I try to create a set of math problems and a set of solutions that really teach you all of the ideas involved. And for first time students that come in, they'll usually come in and say, I'm really struggling with this topic. That's why they will often join the class. And I'll say, you know what? It'll be much more logical if you allow me to do the standards lesson first. Because instead of just doing a bunch of random problems and solutions, we'll logically build up this narrative of questions and answers that are going to really teach you how this set of concepts works. And if the students are on board with that idea, and they usually are, they give me a chance. They work through the standards lesson, and we'll go back at the end of the lesson. I'll say, okay, now let's take a look at your homework questions again. And what usually happens is they start flipping through their homework questions and they say, oh, well, actually, this question is exactly like this question went over the standards. So that's good. And you know what? My second question is like this other question you went over the standards. That's good now, too. And so on and so forth. And you know what? This entire set of questions is just all related to that concept that we talked about. So all of these now are clarified. And that's really the goal of the standards. Okay. The goal of the standards is to create a set of questions that then lead to a set of ideas that allow you to attack all of your homework examples effectively. And then later on, all of the examples that you see on the test effectively, because you're like, okay, not only do I see this question, but I've related it to this bigger picture, this set of ideas that has been formed in like a logical narrative, and everything makes sense according to that process that we've gone through and that I've been taught. So that's my uh, attempt at explaining what I'm trying to do with those standards lessons. But try it yourself, because that's what gets most of students on board who realize that my style of teaching is very effective to them. And all of the instructors at Saccomath Academics, that's why they teach here, is they are also very big believers in this style of teaching and believe that it really helps students understand math better. Next step is a practice test session. So at another session, what we're going to do is we're going to systematically check and refine your knowledge. So now this practice test is going to be your opportunity to actually try to solve these problems on your own. So just take a look at these problems on this first version. Okay. And then take a look at this answer key. Notice how all the solutions are very detailed, and as the problems get more complicated, the steps show all the details of solving the problem, not just the solutions. And then notice on version 2, the first 5 problems are very similar to version 1. We're not trying to give a completely different test here. We're just retrying the problems that we did on version 1, and we're not going to do all of them. What we do is we're very systematic in our studying. So what we do is we try version 1, we check our solutions. The instructors, including myself and the other instructors, will help you, okay, understand what you did wrong. We'll reteach the ideas where needed. And then we only do the problems on version 2 that correspond, that's why they're written in the same order, the problems on version 1 we got wrong, okay? And that's this refinement process. So we give you a very effective way of studying math. We go through and we do the work ahead of time to know we know this topic very well. We know the curriculum in Greek very well. So we do a very good job doing our homework of knowing what a really good summary in a practice test would look like. And then you just have to take it. And then after taking it, we can identify, okay, here's where your trouble is. And then we're going to rework just the parts that you need extra help on. And that's what the version 2 practice test is for. And then we rework it again. And then if you still need more help After that, we can rewrite you some questions. We can look to the homework. We can go back to version one, but usually for a simple, like a simple weekly quiz, 2 versions is enough. Usually for finals, we'll have 3 or 4 versions of a test because for a final exam, we need like more versions because it's a much bigger and more difficult test. So efficient studying process for getting ready for tests. Now, the other thing that the class site offers is for this section, we have all these worksheets that your Creek teacher assigns out of the Creek workbook. Now, I went to Creek. I know how it can be. You're very overwhelmed. You have sports, you have maybe piano lessons, you have, art, you have all these activities. Creek students are involved in so many things. You guys are very talented, but you're often overloaded. And I don't want you getting frustrated. I don't want you getting stuck. I was one of these students who was very conscientious and stayed up late doing my homework and when I didn't understand something. And what often happened, and I've seen this happen to a lot of my students, is when they get frustrated, when they get stuck, in order to power through their homework, they start making up false math ideas, and that actually harms them because then when you get to the exam, you've got all these fake math ideas you're using instead of the real and the proper math ideas that we learned during the lessons. So what we do is we provide really good homework help for your nightly homework. So if your Creek teacher is assigning specific homework, like worksheet P7, then what you can do is you can click on these guides here, okay? And while these say keys here, your Creek teachers will provide keys, but these aren't really just keys. They are detailed guides that will go through and give you hints and step-by-step solutions where needed. Sometimes I'll also, even for tougher assignments, post an important assignments, post a video key. So there's really like a good explanation of hints of how to get through those homework. Okay. So detailed stuff so you're not getting stuck and frustrated on your homework, staying up late at night. We don't want that. We want you learning the correct method and then seamlessly practicing that correct method. Okay. And then really the summer packet. If maybe you're signing up for the beginning and you're wondering about that, very similar. Got like detailed help guides for completing the summer packet. But then since there's that summer packet quiz, which is really important, we've got detailed help guides there. For the AP classes, you've also got those really important FRQ assignments that your AP teachers will have you take home and will really help you with those too. I'll have detailed guides helping you with those, usually multiple versions of extra problems for those FRQs that I write, because they'll often give in-class versions of those as well, and we'll really work on helping you prepare you for those FRQ assignments as well. So helping you with your in-class work at Creek. But at the end of the day, remember, in high school, most of your grade is on tests. So we're helping you get through the homework so you actually understand it, because if you're just completing the homework, that's not good enough. You have to actually understand it so that when you go to the test, you're doing the problems correctly, you're getting the right answer, and you're getting high scores on the test. That's how you get a good grade in math in high school. So that's an overview of the class sites, and hopefully that helps you specifically see how these class sites look and gives you a more detailed explanation of how our lessons are created.